The night was cold, and rain hit the wooden roof like tiny hammers. John sat alone inside his small cabin, deep in the forest on an outer colony planet. A fire burned in the corner, crackling softly. It had been days since he last saw another. John was a human soldier once, but now he lived far from war, far from cities, and far from noise. He liked peace. He liked silence. Suddenly, a soft knock broke that silence. Knock. Knock, knock. He froze. Who would be out here? At this hour? In the rain? John slowly stood up and grabbed his old rifle from the wall. He moved to the door, careful with each step. He looked through the small window. Someone was standing there. Figure, small, thin, wet from head to toe. He opened the door just a little, keeping his rifle ready. That's when he saw her. She wasn't human. Her skin had a soft glow under the rain, a pale blue shade with light markings across her neck and arms. Her large eyes were full of fear. She was shaking badly, and her clothes were torn. She looked up at him and whispered in a small voice, "I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. Please, please let me in." John didn't speak at first. His eyes searched her face for danger. But all he saw was exhaustion and sadness. "Who are you?" he asked, still blocking the door. "No one," she replied. "Just someone with nowhere to go." He stared at her for a long second. She looked ready to collapse. With a sigh, he opened the door wider. "Get in before you freeze." She stepped in quickly, dripping water on the wooden floor. She didn't even look around, just stood in the corner, arms crossed tightly over her chest. John shut the door behind her. "Sit near the fire," he said. "You're soaked." She hesitated, then slowly moved to the fireplace and knelt beside it, holding out her shaking hands. "What's your name?" John asked, setting down his rifle. She didn't answer. He poured her a cup of warm water and handed it to her. She took it carefully with both hands and whispered, "Thank you." He sat across from her. For a few minutes, neither of them said a word. The rain kept falling outside. The fire popped and cracked. "You running from something?" he finally asked. She nodded. "Someone chasing you?" Another nod. John narrowed his eyes. "Are they coming here?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "But if they find me, they'll take me back." "Back where?" "To the cages." John's jaw tightened. "You were a slave?" She looked away, ashamed. "Yes," he rubbed his face. This wasn't what he expected when he heard that knock. "You hungry?" She looked at him, unsure if she could say yes. He nodded, and she slowly answered, "Yes, but I'll cook." "Please let me earn it." John raised an eyebrow. "You don't have to. I want to." He sighed. "All right then. Kitchen's small, but it works." She stood, still shaky, and moved slowly into the kitchen. In just a few minutes, the smell of warm food filled the cabin. It shocked him how fast and skillfully she worked. She was quiet, careful, and moved like she had done this her whole life. When the food was ready, she served him first, then sat on the floor with her own plate, keeping a distance. "You can sit at the table," John said. She shook her head. "I'm not allowed." He stared at her for a moment. "You are now." She blinked, surprised. Slowly, she got up and sat across from him. As they ate, she said softly, "You live alone?" "Yes." "For how long?" "Years." She nodded. "That's nice." "Not really. Gets quiet sometimes." She smiled just a little. "I'm good at being quiet." After dinner, John rolled out an old blanket for her on the couch. "You can sleep here tonight." "Thank you," she whispered again. "I won't be a problem." John turned out the lights and went to his room. But he couldn't sleep. An hour passed. Then another. He walked out quietly to check on her. She wasn't sleeping. She stood at the window, staring into the woods. "Something wrong?" he asked. She jumped, startled. I just wanted to make sure they're not coming." "Who?" "The ones who owned me." John looked into the dark forest. He didn't see anyone out there. But now he had a feeling something bad was coming. At 3 a.m. John woke up to the smell of something strange. Not danger, but fresh bread. He walked into the kitchen half asleep. There she was, kneeling on the floor, baking quietly by candlelight. Like it was normal. She looked up, startled when she saw him. "I didn't mean to wake you," she whispered. "You had no breakfast food, so I made some." John blinked, confused. "You haven't slept?" She shook her head gently. "I don't sleep much. It's safer that way." John crossed his arms, watching her. This girl was strange. Not dangerous, just strange. Every day since she arrived, she worked hard. Cleaning, cooking, washing, fixing things. And not once did she complain. Not even when she burned her hand. Or when the water was ice cold. She just kept going like a machine. John had met soldiers tougher than steel. But even they groaned once in a while. This girl didn't. And that scared him more than anything else. Later that day, while John chopped firewood outside, he saw her hanging sheets on a wire. Her movements were slow but exact, like someone who had done it 1,000 times, and had been punished the one time she got it wrong. A strong gust of wind blew the sheet out of her hands. She caught it just in time, but flinched hard, as if expecting to be hit. John stepped closer. "Hey," he said gently. "It's okay, it's just wind." She didn't answer, just bowed her head and nodded. That night, she made stew rich, warm, and better than anything John had eaten in months. He couldn't help but ask, "Where did you learn to cook like this?" She paused. "I was trained, many times, by different owners." John felt sick hearing that. She continued in a calm voice. "If I burned the food, they took it out of my meals. If I spoke too loud, they tied my mouth for a day. If I slept too long, they poured cold water on me. I learned quickly." John set down his spoon. "You're free now," he said firmly. "You don't need to act like a servant here." She tilted her head. "If I don't serve, what am I supposed to do?" "Live," John said. "Be yourself." She looked down at her hands. "I don't know who that is." That night, the rain came again. Thunder rolled through the sky like a giant's footsteps. John was in bed when he heard something, a soft whimper. He got up and walked toward the living room. She was hiding under the table, curled up tight, shaking like a leaf. "Hey," he said softly, crouching down. "It's just thunder." Her eyes were wide. "I know. But the last time I heard that sound, bombs followed." John gently reached out and touched her hand. "You're safe here. No bombs, no cages, just you and me." She stared at him for a long time, and nodded. But even after he went back to bed, she stayed under that table for hours. The next morning, John found the blanket folded neatly, the floor swept, the dishes done, and she was already outside, collecting wood, even though her feet were bare. "Hey," he called. "What are you doing? It's freezing." She walked back calmly, holding a full bundle of logs. "You needed more wood. I didn't want you to get cold." John took the bundle from her hands. "You don't need to do everything. I can manage some things on my own, you know." She gave him the smallest smile. "I know, but I feel useful when I help." He looked into her eyes. There was something hidden there. A deep pain she wasn't ready to talk about yet, but also a quiet strength. That evening, she sat on the porch and stared at the stars. John joined her, holding 2 cups of warm tea. He handed her one. "You know," he said, "you don't talk much about your past." She held the cup with both hands. "Because if I do, I might break." John nodded slowly. "Fair enough." Then she looked at him. "Do you ever feel broken, human?" John gave a bitter laugh. "Every day, but you learn to live with the cracks." She sipped the tea. "Maybe that's what I need. Someone who understands the cracks." They sat in silence. The stars twinkled above them like tiny hopes in a dark sky, and deep in the woods, something was watching. She screamed not loudly, but like a child trying not to wake her parents. John rushed in, only to find her crouched by the fireplace, clutching her arm and whispering, "I didn't mean to burn it. Please don't take my food away." John dropped to his knees beside her. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "It's just a burn. You're safe." But she wasn't listening. Her eyes were wide, lost in the past. Her lips kept moving, repeating the same words over and over. John gently touched her shoulder, and she flinched hard. Then finally, her eyes focused on him. "You're not there anymore," he said. "You're here, with me." She blinked. Tears fell without sound. And slowly, she nodded. "I'll get a bandage," he said, walking to the small first aid box. She sat still, silent, like a statue of pain dot as he cleaned the burn. He noticed something on her arm, a strange, dark mark burned into her skin. A circle with lines inside it. John's fingers paused. "What's this?" She didn't look at him. "Property tag." "Property?" She nodded. "It means I belong to someone, or used to." John's jaw tightened. "Who marked you?" She finally looked at him. "Traitors, when I was 12. 12? They said I was strong for my size. Good bones. Quiet. I was perfect for training." John had seen many things in war: blood, betrayal, destruction, but nothing ever made him feel the cold rage he felt now. "You're not anyone's property," he said, voice shaking. "Not anymore." That evening, after patching her arm, John sat across from her near the fire. "Tell me," he said gently. "How did you get away?" She stared into the flames. "I was on a ship. They were moving us, me and others. One night, during a storm, the ship crashed. I crawled out. I ran for 3 nights. Then I saw your cabin. You walked all that way?" She nodded. "Barefoot, hungry, but I had to. If they caught me, they would have sold me again." John felt a deep ache in his chest. She looked so calm now, but he could see the truth in her eyes. She was used to pain. "I won't let them take you," he said. She tilted her head. "Why? I'm just a servant." "No," John said firmly. "You're a person." She looked confused, like she had never heard those words used for herself before. The next day, John gave her a pair of his old boots. Way too big for her, but she smiled and stuffed them with cloth to fit. Later, while fixing the water pump, she asked him something strange. "Do you own me now?" John stopped turning the wrench and looked at her. "No one owns you. But I'm staying in your house, eating your food. Because I offered, not because you belong to me." She was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, "That feels strange. You'll get used to it." That night, as they sat at the table, she asked another question. "If someone sees the mark, will they report me?" John looked at her seriously. "They'll have to go through me first, but you live alone. You don't owe me anything." "Maybe I don't," John said, "but maybe that's why I'm the right one to help." She stared at him for a long time, then said softly, "No one has ever said that to me. Not even once." Later, while she slept curled up on the couch, John took a blanket and carefully covered her dot as he turned to leave. He saw her hand slip out from under the cloth, and his eyes fell again on that burned slave mark. He clenched his fists. He had seen enough. She wasn't going back. Not while he was breathing. Asterisk. The loud hum of a patrol ship cut through the quiet sky. John stepped outside with a cup of coffee and saw it. A black and silver ship slowly circling above the trees, searchlight scanning the ground. They were looking for someone, and he already knew who. He walked back inside, calm on the outside. But something heavy tightened in his chest. She was sitting at the small table, folding laundry, like nothing was wrong. "Put that down," John said. She looked up, confused. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," he said. "But someone's coming, looking for you." Her hands froze. "Ship?" She whispered. John nodded. Her face turned pale. Her whole body tensed. "Where do I go?" She asked quickly. "I can hide in the crawl space." "No," John said firmly. "Go to the back room, closet. Stay there and don't make a sound." Without a word, she got up and ran. Quiet, fast, like someone who had done this before. Minutes later, there was a knock. At the door. John opened it slowly. 2 armored patrol officers stood outside. One was human. The other was a tall, insect-like alien with blinking eye stalks and a long scanner in hand. "Morning," the human officer said, too cheerful. "Sorry to bother you. Routine check." John kept a straight face. "Out here? That's rare." "Got reports of a crash," the alien said, scanning John's body with a quick flash of light. "Possible escapee from a slave ship." John's heart beat faster, but his voice stayed calm. "Haven't seen anyone." The human held up a HOLO- image. It was her. Wet, dirty, scared, just like the night she had knocked on his door. "Sure?" the human asked. "She's small, quiet, could be hiding anywhere." John stared at the image. "No, haven't seen her." The alien stepped past him and looked around the cabin. "Mind if we scan the place?" The officer asked casually. "I do," John said. "You got a warrant?" They looked at each other. The alien grunted. "No warrant," the human said. "Just checking. Then I suggest you check somewhere else." A long silence followed. Then the officers turned and walked back to the ship. John didn't move until he heard the engines. "Lift them away." He closed the door and leaned against it, eyes shut. She stepped out from the hallway closet, hands shaking, eyes wide with fear. "They had my face," she whispered. "They're getting close." John looked at her. "Then we have to be ready." She looked up confused. "You're not sending me away?" "No," he said. "I said you were safe here, and I meant it." She took a shaky breath. "They won't. Stop. If they find me, they'll punish me in front of others." To set an example, John's voice dropped low. "Then we make sure they don't find you at all." That evening, John sat down with her and spread out a rough map of the area. "If you need to run, there are old mining tunnels here," he said, pointing. "But I'd rather we didn't split up." She looked over the map, eyes sharp. "You know these paths? Used to patrol them years ago." She gave a small nod. "Then maybe I can help you defend this place." John raised an eyebrow. "You want to fight?" She didn't smile. "I may not look like it, but I was trained before they changed me into a servant." John leaned back, impressed. "All right," he said. "Let's make this place harder to search." Over the next 2 days, they set traps, dug hiding spots, and practiced silent movement through the woods. She learned fast. Her soft footsteps made no sound. Her small hands worked with precision. She was more than just a servant. She was someone who had survived the impossible, and now she was ready to stand her ground. But deep inside, John knew the patrol ship would return. Next time, they might not knock. John woke to the sound of metal clashing outside. He grabbed his rifle and rushed out the back door, heart pounding. In the moonlight, he saw her barefoot, silent, and moving fast, dodging between trees, striking at a wooden post with a sharp stick like it was a real enemy, and her form, perfect, deadly. Trained. He didn't speak, just watched from the shadows. Each strike she made had purpose. Her eyes were focused, her stance low and strong. She moved like a fighter, not someone taught to serve, but someone once trained to survive. When she finally noticed him, she froze. "I didn't mean to wake you," she said quickly. "I was just remembering." John stepped forward. "You've had training, real combat training." She nodded. Slowly. "Before I was sold, yes." I was supposed to become a protector for my people. But I refused to follow orders to kill children. So they sold me instead. John said nothing for a long moment. Then finally, why hide that from me? She lowered her gaze. Because most people don't like a servant who knows how to fight. Later, they sat by the fire inside the cabin. You didn't just fight back there, John said. You moved like a soldier. She shrugged lightly. I remember what they taught me. My body remembers too. John poured 2 cups of tea. And if they come back, would you use that training again? Her voice was soft. If it means staying. Free, yes. There was silence between them for a few seconds. Then she added, but I'm not good at leading. I only know how to follow. John looked at her. That's not what I saw tonight. Over the next few days, they trained together. John showed her how to use old human weapons, simple traps, tripwires, and hand signals. She showed him alien combat forms, fast strikes, precise holds, silent takedowns. She moved like a shadow. And she never missed. One day, after a long session, she asked, "Why are you helping me so much?" John replied, "Because you're not just a servant. You're more." She looked away, unsure how to answer, but something had changed in her eyes. The fear was still there. But now it burned beside courage. That night, while sharpening a blade, she told John something new. "There's a tracker in my mark," she said suddenly. "They can find me. It's hidden small. But real." John's hand froze. "A tracker?" he repeated. She nodded. "I didn't know before, but I can feel it now. It itches, it burns sometimes. They'll follow it here." John stood up and grabbed his gear. "We have to remove it," he said. She took a breath. "It will hurt. Better that than going back." Under dim lantern light, she sat at the table, arms stretched out. John opened a med kit and sterilized. A knife. His hands were steady, but his face was tight. "Tell me when you're ready," he said. She didn't flinch. "Do it." He made the cut carefully. She didn't scream. She didn't even cry. Only her hands shook just a little as he pulled out the tiny black chip and dropped it into a metal box. John crushed it with the butt of his rifle. "No one's tracking you now," he said. She looked at him through the pain. "Thank you." But he saw something else in her eyes now. Fire. Outside the cabin, far away in the darkness. A blinking red light on a scanner suddenly went dead. And a shadowy figure watching the screen whispered, "They found her. And someone's protecting her." The crows weren't cawing. The woods were silent, too silent. John stood at the cabin door, hand on his weapon, staring into the trees. Then he heard it. A metallic click. A drone, black as night, floated just above the treetops. It scanned the cabin with a red beam and whispered in a robotic voice, "Target confirmed. Prepare for capture." John didn't hesitate. He slammed the door shut, locked the bolts, and shouted, "They're here." She was already on her feet. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She grabbed the staff they had carved together from old wood and metal. Her eyes were sharp, focused, ready. "How many?" she asked. "I saw one drone." "That means more are coming." She took a deep breath. "Then we end it tonight." They had spent days preparing. Now it was time to use everything. John pressed a switch near the fireplace. Outside, old branches snapped as hidden traps activated sharp wires. Deep pits and smoke bombs buried under leaves. The sky above the cabin turned darker, not because of the night, but because a full-sized patrol ship blocked the moonlight. Boots hit the ground. 5 soldiers, heavily armed, cold eyes. "No mercy, give her up," one shouted, "or we burn it all." John stepped out with his rifle in hand. "Come and try." From the shadows behind the cabin, she moved like a ghost. She slid between trees, silent and unseen. One soldier stepped forward, scanning the area. He didn't even hear her coming. Crack! Her staff slammed into his leg. He dropped. She flipped the weapon and knocked him out cold before he could scream. The other soldiers turned, confused, angry, but she was already gone, moved again, fast and low. John opened fire from the porch, hitting one in the arm. Smoke bombs exploded from the traps covering the whole front yard in thick gray fog. "Fall back, she's not alone." One soldier yelled Dot inside the chaos. She moved like she was born in it. She struck another soldier in the back and rolled away before anyone could. Fire. One of them fired blindly, hitting a tree. Another got caught in a hidden pit and screamed as he fell. "Retreat," the commander barked. "This isn't just a pickup, it's a war zone." But before they could escape, John stepped into the open, his gun aimed straight at the commander's head. "You came to take a slave," John growled. "But you just made a fighter." After the fight, only one patrol ship limped away, smoke rising from its side, dragging 2 wounded men. The cabin stood, slightly damaged but still strong. She came out of the woods, her face smeared with dirt. Hair messy, chest rising and falling with every breath. But her eyes were alive. "You okay?" John asked Dot. She nodded. "I didn't kill anyone." John looked at her, surprised. "You had the chance." "I didn't want to become what they made me." He smiled. "That's what makes you stronger." Later that night, they sat on the porch again. No fire, no words. Just the stars. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked quietly. John nodded. "Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but yes, they'll come. Then we keep fighting," she said. "Together." He looked at her and saw not a servant, not a runaway, but a warrior beside him, not because she was trained to be one, but because she chose to be. The cabin was burning. Flames climbed the walls like wild animals. John didn't look back. She stood beside him, breathing hard, watching everything she knew disappear into smoke. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Sometimes to be free, we have to let the past burn." They had stayed for one more week, rebuilding traps, preparing weapons, and watching the skies. But 2 nights ago, a small message came through John's old radio. "They're coming back. Full force, no survivors." He didn't wait, he packed. 2 bags, one for him, one for her. She didn't argue. She didn't ask where they were going. She simply said, "I trust you." Now they walked through the forest together, away from the cabin, away from the world that wanted to break her. They hiked for miles, moving only at night, resting in hidden places. On the 3rd day, they reached the CLIFFSIDE. Below them, the abandoned shuttle John had hidden years ago, half buried in moss, almost forgotten, still sat waiting. "It still flies?" she asked. John smiled. "If you know the right buttons." They worked together to uncover it, clean it, and bring it back to life. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Before takeoff, she stood at the edge of the cliff and looked out over the trees. "Will I always be running?" she asked softly. "No," John said. "This time we're running towards something." "Like what?" "A planet where no one knows you. No hunters, no chains, just peace." She looked at him. "And if they find us again?" "Then we keep moving," he said. "But next time, not as strangers, as family." She turned, eyes wide. "Family?" He nodded. "If you want that." She stepped forward slowly and whispered, "More than anything." They launched into the sky just before sunrise. The cabin below burned quietly, like an old chapter closing for good. The ship flew high, breaking through the clouds. She sat beside him, watching the stars open wide in front of them. For the first time, she smiled, not out of fear or gratitude, but because she felt free, truly free. Months later, on a quiet farming planet far from the core systems, a local trader told a strange story. A human man came here with an alien woman, said he was done fighting, so she just wanted to grow flowers. Another trader asked, "What's she like?" The man smiled. "She's quiet, kind, stronger than she looks." "Servant?" The trader laughed. No, not at all. He leaned in and whispered, "She can cook, she can clean. She can be quiet, but only when she wants to. And that man? He's the luckiest fool in the galaxy."